And we had just a 5-minute break between sessions. And if you didn't get a chance to stretch or stand up, take a minute to do so. I have on the screen a couple of like stretching, moving activities. You could do a quick shoulder shrug, just lift your shoulders and roll them back. Or you could do the torso stretch. Just reach your arms straight up toward the sky or the ceiling, and then exhale as you bring them down. So, okay, make sure your teachers are building in some stretch breaks and doing it for yourself. Okay. So now that we're all stretched out, ready to go, we're getting started today. And this session's on some ongoing assessments that you can do online. Even though we're doing remote learning and virtual learning, it's important to keep best practices. And so, you know, when teachers are in the classroom with their students, they can see confused faces. Students have ways to interact with the teacher, raise their hand, ask a neighbor. Well, virtually, how can you accomplish that? How can you find out how students are doing academically? What kind of formative assessments can you do online? And that's the purpose of this session. Okay, I'm Neva Moga, Instructional Tech Supervisor for MPS. And the goal is that you can experience some technology tools that could be used before, during, and after learning for formative assessment purposes. There are ways that students can interact with the content, as well as for you, the teacher, to kind of see student thinking. Okay, the success criteria, when you can choose a formative assessment for use in facilitation of professional learning. So some of you may be doing presentations with staff coming up, that you might choose one of these that you'll use in a staff development meeting, or with students. I know some of the high schools are doing freshman bridge, and so maybe you choose one of these that you want to insert into that freshman bridge. So our first activity that we're going to try is Mentimeter. And instead of clicking a link, this is what it would look like. I'm going to have you, I'm going to put a link in the chat, or maybe Lisa has that link. Alrighty, where'd it go? Okay, so there's a couple of ways that you can do Mentimeter. And I'm just going to give you the link. Oh, looks like she already put it in there. Awesome. And so you could use a QR code for people to just scan on their phones, or in this case, I'm using it to, because I have you live, I just sent you the link. And so you just click the link, it opens up a tab, and the question is, or the prompt is, to finish the sentence. Formative assessment is to learning as blank is to blank. All right, only about a fourth of my participants have added something. So again, hopefully you can come up with something. And for me, as the instructor, if it's hard to come up with a relationship of formative assessment to something else, that can serve as an indicator that, maybe it's not sure about what formative assessment is for learning. Okay, so you can use Mentimeter before learning to see how much people already know about a topic, because if you can build a relationship with it, usually that's some deeper thinking. Okay. One thing about this tool, notice it's anonymous. So before displaying results, I would have to review and make sure that all the results are okay as the facilitator.
Neva, can you repeat the question one more time?
Yeah, the question is, so if they click that link to Mentimeter, they're prompted to finish this sentence. Formative assessment is to learning as blank is to blank. Okay. All right, so I'm behind the scenes taking a look at your responses, and I'm going to now display them for you. So if you have your Mentimeter tab open, you can close that. And I'm going to display the results. So this is the results page. You can see what your colleagues have written here. Tasting food before adding more salt is to cooking. Okay. Water to a plant, weigh-ins to weight loss. I love this one. Mass reduction of COVID. Okay. Working out is to losing weight. Hot weather is to summer. Yeah, it can't be summer without, like, it's pretty essential, right? These all are looking like essential things. Bees to honey. There were several about weight loss. I've heard a lot of people talking about, instead of COVID-19, the weight as being the COVID-19 pounds. Fruit is to planting. Ooh, Waze is to road trip. I don't know. Waze is so awesome. I agree. So this is a way to gauge understanding, having a look at what the thinking is in the room. All of you who cared to contribute had a voice. So about half of the group posted in here. And again, a way to see the thinking. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing.
One more question about,
and again, this
I'm sorry, about a question about Mentimeter. Yep. Can you add instructions to the Mentimeter? Like,
no, the display that you saw, that's all you get. If I would have typed more in the, you have a limited number of characters. So I could have typed a little bit more in there, but not much.
And is it free?
Mentimeter is free. Yes. So what I'm using is free. It does have like a paid, as most sites do, a paid version where you can do more. But for the simple use that I just used, and you're able to edit, you can also copy other people's questions. Like they have a question bank in Mentimeter. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And you can duplicate it and use someone else's question. Okay, so yes, it is free. So Mentimeter is your first tool that I'm going to show you today. We're going to move on. And then once I get through demonstrating the 3 tools, you'll have some time at the end to go try one. So if you're interested in Mentimeter, at the end, you'll have an opportunity to go check it out. Okay. So next tool. Let me go back to sharing my presentation. I'm also going to turn the camera off so I can retain some bandwidth over here. All right. This screen was just the different ways that you can share Mentimeter with students. Like I said, I could have given you a code. You would have had to go to menti.com and enter a code. I just happened to put the link in the chat. You could put a link in your Google Classroom, or for even our youngest learners using Seesaw, you could put the link in Seesaw or scan with a phone to get to the place where you enter your topic. And then as a teacher, you can post that, on a lesson on a Tuesday or something, and then revisit it whole group and share the results later on in the week. Okay, so you don't have to do it like right away. Okay. Next, I'm going to share another tool. It's called Jamboard. Some of you may have experienced Jamboard before. It is a Google tool. It's a free whiteboarding tool. So those of you who are familiar with Padlet might say it's a little similar to Padlet, but it's very simplistic. So it's really just a board, a white blank space where you can put Post-its, you can draw on it. There's a pen, eraser. It's like having a very minimal smartboard online. So I'm going to show you the tool first and then let you play in it. Okay, so before we're going to have you in some groups to check it out. So before, I'm going to show you how to get there. So where do you find Jamboard? I just opened up a new tab in my browser, and I can go to my waffle of Google apps over here. You can see I'm logged into Chrome. And Jamboard is one of the Google apps. So I can click it. And again, I'm going to show you the tool. These are my recent ones. I'm just going to start a new jam. So you can see down here in orange, the orange plus button to start a brand new jam. And like I said, it's just a basic white space online. You can have multiple pages or frames of jams. And then how you get more frames, you see it's one of one. If I just hit the arrow over, it automatically creates more and more and more. I haven't pushed the limit. I don't know how many, but you can have lots of frames. Okay. Some teachers I've seen examples use Jamboard as a presentation tool. So a different way of students, instead of creating a PowerPoint or a Google slideshow, you could have students create a jam. This works great, especially for our youngest learners who may prefer to draw because there's a pen tool. I can pick a color, I can pick the style. Let's go with a marker, and then I can draw. Okay. You can insert pictures. You can have a laser. So if I had some text open, I could use the laser to highlight certain things on my jam. Okay. And so again, students could use this as a presentation. Today, we're going to use it in a collaborative way, again, for formative assessment to show student thinking. And in our case, your thinking. A couple of tips before we do that. Your only directions are to use the sticky note feature. And here's how the Jamboard sticky note feature works. You click it, sticky note comes up. You can choose a color for your sticky or none at all. Type your note and hit save. Maybe I have another idea. Hit save. And my sticky notes appear. Because it's a collaborative space, you can delete and move and change other people's ideas. So we're using this in a collaborative way. There's going to be a lot of people in the Jamboard. And so what I'd like you to do is not mess with other people's sticky notes. Your only task will be to click a sticky note on the side here on the left, add your idea, and once you've added it, you click save. And then go to the next tab over. Okay, the next frame is another question. Okay, so that's how you will participate on the Jamboard. Because there's 80-some people, I've found that kind of the max number working on a Jamboard is like 20 to 25. So I'm going to tell you which jam you're going to go to based on my participants list here. Typically in a classroom, you would have like your standard groups where students know which group you're in. So you're going to go to your jam and participate. All right, so I see every group. Oh, someone's using other tools other than the sticky note. Someone tried out the laser. And notice there's 2 frames. So once you've added a sticky to what is the purpose of assessment, go to the next frame and respond to that question. Remember to get to the next frame at the top of your Jamboard window are arrows, and you can arrow over to get to the second question. It doesn't look like anyone's over there just yet. All right, everyone who's in group 4, arrow over to the next slide. Slide number 2 has the question, what have you... Oh, someone moved it. But what have you seen in terms of challenges that teachers are facing with remote assessment? So what things, like thinking about how the spring went, what were some challenges that teachers were facing? So now that you guys have had an opportunity to experience a Jamboard, one thing that I'm able to do as the facilitator is then remove access. So it kind of locks the Jamboard out. If I wanted to, like, keep it, I can also download my Jam as a picture and then be able to share the picture once I'm done, or once we're done creating our work, or students are creating our work. So we use Jamboard in a collaborative sense. I wanted to remind you that you could use Jamboard individually. Students could use this as their own personal digital notes. As they're experiencing learning in a variety of ways, they can capture their learning on a Jamboard. They could put notes, pictures, quotes, whatever is making sense to them of whatever they're learning about, and then be able to share that like they would any other Google Doc in Google Classroom. Or if the student is using Seesaw, they can use an image. They can send that to their teacher via Seesaw. Okay, so there's a lot of ways that you can use a Jamboard, like I said, collaborative or individual. And again, because it is a Google product, it shares like other Google products do. So for sharing, what I could do, we won't take the time to do it, but you guys were all put in a group. You clicked on your Jamboard and you added some ideas, and hopefully within your group, the groups are large enough. There were a lot of ideas posted for what the challenges were. And the first question I had asked about what is formative assessment gives me some idea of what do you already know about the topic, how in depth do I need to go on teaching more about it, which I knew it's a very common topic, so I know I don't have to spend too much on it. But if you didn't know, you could see the thinking of others and get an idea, right? I could display this. We could talk about what are the best ideas. I could sort and move them around. Okay, so those are just some tips and tricks for what you might use Jamboard for. Okay, I'm going to pause now for questions that may have come in while we did that activity.
No questions for this activity, but a little bit when we were in the Mentimeter.
Yes.
And the instructions, they were really looking for like instructions for teachers. If you have anything written for teachers.
On how to do it. So
yeah.
We don't have in our district like anything specific about how to use Mentimeter, but Mentimeter has a lot of resources for how-tos just to get started, because it's such a simplistic tool in terms of posting a question, and then you're able to get 2 links basically. The link to give to participants, and then the link for you to view the results. And because it's such a simplistic tool, I did want to share that as an idea for teachers.
Okay.
Neba, I have a question. You had mentioned something about Seesaw and images with Seesaw. Could you clarify that in regards to how you could use Jamboard with Seesaw and the little ones?
Yeah, so if just like a student submits like a Jamboard, like the link, they would share that with their teacher. In Seesaw, same thing. The student would take that link and post it to their teacher in Seesaw.
I had a question because I edited my sticky note, but then I didn't see it again.
Yeah, and in the collaborative, I know people were kind of moving the stickies around, so it could have gotten lost in the sticky shuffle if yours is no longer there or visible. And so that's one of the kind of downfalls of it, is that everybody can edit everybody's work. So my suggestion or recommendation to teachers using Jamboard would be to limit the number of people that are in it, for one. So if you have a jam, you might only have, let's say, 4 kids on it. And in Google Classroom or in Seesaw, when you assign like a link to students or make an assignment, you can pick these 4 students are the only ones who see it. The other students wouldn't even know it exists, right? Because you can differentiate in both of the tools like that and only share it with a select number. Or you could create one and only put 2 students on it. So to relieve some of the, like we had 20 on a board, which is a lot. But you can differentiate that way. And again, it's a great tool for showing thinking, the thinking in the room. And you can then, after it's all done, remove the access from it, turn everyone to view mode on the Jamboards, and post the link for everybody to be able to see the ideas of others. So in our room, all the links are in the chat. If you wanted to see what another group came up with, you could click on someone else's Jamboard and look at it. And yeah, so because we were in a big group, like Latricia said, they were kind of covering each other up. Yep, you can rearrange them, make it look nice and easier to read. But then you can, you know, show the thinking in the room or in our in the virtual classes this way. Okay, so wanted to demo Jamboard. And like I said, the sharing settings for Jamboard work very similar to all the other Google tools, you know, giving people rights to view or edit. Okay, so moving on in our presentation, let me show my screen again. So the next tool, so we just did, we start out with Mentimeter, we did a Jamboard. The third tool I'm going to share in this session is Pear Deck. Now, a bunch of you were in my first session, so it's not the same thing you saw. This was a little hidden gem that I did not share with anyone before, and it's called a Pear Deck Pop Up activity. So in the previous session, I showed how you can create a Pear Deck using Google Slides. You can also use the power of Pear Deck on the fly, and I'll show you how that works now. Okay, so Pear Deck, I'm going to, let's see, I'm having connection issues. Okay, at peardeck.com, teachers log in. This is where teachers, and in my last session, for those of you who were there, you go to sessions and you can see any Pear Deck sessions you've run. However, if I just want to do a quick question, like on the fly, I'm doing this virtual session with you all, I got 80 some people and I want to check in, I can go over here and do a pop-up activity. So it's not connected to a Google Slides in any way. I can just go over here and click choose a prompt. And I'm just logged into peardeck.com with my teacher account. And it's saying, oh, I like this one. Pause, write what you've just learned. So I'm going to grab this one as the one I want to use. And just like before, I can just give students a link. So I'm going to copy this link and put it in the chat. And so on the fly, I can find out what you guys are thinking. So go ahead and click that link. Let me know. Tell me something you've learned during this presentation. All right, hopefully you entered something. I'm going to take a look at the responses. So if you'll look back at your Google Meet window now. So in Pear Deck, so you guys saw how I created this pop-up question. I just went to peardeck.com, clicked pop-up activities. I selected this question and gave you all a link. So those were the steps so far. Okay. If I want to see the responses, down here at the bottom of Pear Deck, it says show responses, and that's how I display them to you. So I'm showing you my screen. When I hit show responses, anonymously, I can see what folks have learned. I can over here do grid layout to see more of the topics at once. And now everyone's had an opportunity to share something. Not that everybody did. How many people? So 61 people or 52 people responded out of the 86 that are in this Google Meet. But it's an opportunity for you to have your voice heard, or in this case, your ideas displayed for others. Okay. And as a teacher, I can display this. What I'm doing right now, regardless of whether you have the premium version of Pear Deck or not, this is free. The Pear Deck pop-up activities are free. And I can display the responses. Notice they're all anonymous. Okay. And a way to get the thinking in the room. Okay. I'm capturing, in this sense, I'm seeing what did you learn? What's something you're going to walk away with, right? I can see some people are still typing. Okay. So we have about 15 more minutes that remain. So what I'm going to do is go here. Is give you some time to try out one of these three. Now, obviously, these three tools aren't the only formative assessment tools that exist, but they are three that work well in the Google environment that we live in, okay? So we are a G Suite for Education district, and G Suite means just all the Google for Education tools. And these three are pretty easy to use as a way to do some formative assessment, whether in a live session like this, or by assigning like a Jamboard where students can work on their own time. And then as a teacher, you revisit the Jamboard later. Or Mentimeter, capturing some ideas. And again, it doesn't have to be live. It could be you share the Mentimeter. Everyone completes it when they can, because people might be working at different times. And then the next day, whole group do a wrap up. Let's celebrate the ideas that were shared. Let's look at some of the thinking from their peers. Okay. So these three tools could be used before, during, or after. Okay. What I'd like you to do is try one. I don't have the links to the tools active because I didn't give you the presentation. But if you still had your did I give you this one? No, I don't think I did. That you'd be able to access the tools. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing. I'm going to put the link to the presentation in the chat. And then you have those links to take you right to one of those tools for you to start trying them out. So again, you still have about 15 minutes remaining. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to do a quick 5-minute wrap up, okay? So take 10 minutes, choose one. Obviously, you can't do all three in that amount of time, but choose one that you'll go investigate further. You either sign up for Mentimeter, see how that works, try Jamboard.
Quick question.
Pear Deck. Yep.
Okay. Can these tools be integrated with Google Slides for assessment?
Ingrid, can you have Google Slides and integrate? Yeah, you could create a Google Slides presentation and put links to your Mentimeter within your slides presentation. You could put links to the Jamboard within the slides, as well as having the engaging Pear Deck features. So yeah, you could have all three in one.
Okay, and then one more back to Jamboard. Someone was asking, how do you remove access once you're done?
Oh, in Jamboard? Yep.
Yes.
I'm going to show that real quick.
Okay.
I'm going to go to present my screen. All right, and the question is about sharing, which the way that I'm going to show you how to do this is what you would do in any Google Doc. And just open a new window. Take me right to Jamboard. So from this tab, I'm going to go access all of my jams at Jamboard. And so here's this one. This was group 3's presentation. If I wanted to stop people from being able to work on it, I should have picked a different group. Group 3 was big. So it's taking a minute to load. And right here, well, I think I clicked too fast. Okay, you click share. So right now, anyone in MPS with the link has edit rights. I can change it and say anyone within MPS can view only. And then I hit done. So the next time someone comes to this link, they wouldn't be able to edit or change anything. And that was, I just did group 1. I'm going to hit that back arrow, and I could do that for all of the groups and then remove access from continuing to edit those. Okay. And again, so now I just opened up group 4s. I can hit that share button, change, view only. Great question. All right, give you another 5 or 6 minutes on your own, trying out a tool. All right, so you guys might be on other tabs. Thank you for taking a moment to try out some tools. So I'm wondering, what'd you do during that time? Which tool do you plan to use for an upcoming either professional development, and what are you going to use it for? And go ahead and type that in the chat. What did you try, and what do you plan to use that for? The chat is silent. Is everyone still working on their own stuff? They're like, forget that presentation. I'm using Jamboard. Okay, a Jamboard for staff meetings or trainings. Yeah, I can really see a way for everyone to put their ideas. So like these virtual, instead of, you used to have the big chart paper up and everyone had their stickies. Well, now Jamboard can replace that. All right, I see Misty wants to try Pear Deck with her staff, and Kim. Oh, Jamboard for a parking lot. Thanks, Natalie. It's a great tip. Just having a Jamboard link, and as anyone has ideas or comments or questions throughout a presentation, that could be the parking lot. Very good. You could use the Jamboard for exit tickets. And again, notice these are all strategies. They're not for a grade. They're to get the thinking in the room. It helps, again, you as the learner see where you are, where your thinking is, where the thinking is of your peers. Okay, exit tickets. Yeah. Oh, for biliteracy or the students in the freshman bridge, you can use this to get students participating and engaging. Thanks, Doreen. We do have a check for understanding for this session, just like all the other ones. And so you have, I posted a link. Oh, and Lisa has it posted too. Thank you, Lisa.